My mother told me to stay silent at Thanksgiving dinner. 18 family members watched her shut me down, but I had a manila envelope under my chair that was about to change everything. I looked at her, then at every face around that table, and I stood up. So I opened it. Right there, in front of all of them. My name is Anna Weaver. I'm 31 years old. I'm a public school art teacher in a small town in Ohio. I drive a used car. I rent a one-bedroom apartment. My salary is modest. And I've never pretended to be anything I'm not. I'm the middle child of 3 daughters, and in my family, that meant I was invisible. My older sister, Candace, is a real estate agent, married to a wealthy developer. She's always been the one they praised, the prized daughter, the one my parents paraded around at every holiday, every dinner, every chance they got. My younger sister, Brooke, followed Candace's footsteps into business and earned approval just by standing in her shadow. Then there was me. I chose art. I chose teaching, and my family never forgave me for it. I wasn't rich, I didn't own property or wear designer labels, but I had something none of them knew about, something I'd been building in silence for 3 years. They saw a quiet woman with paint under her nails. They had no idea what was in that envelope. If you've ever been the one in your family who chose a different path and got punished for it, subscribe right now. I see you. Drop a comment and tell me what you chose that they didn't understand. Click hype and let's get into this. Every year, the entire Weaver family gathers at Mom and Dad's house for Thanksgiving. Aunts, uncles, cousins, about 18 people packed into that dining room. The smell of roasted turkey and cinnamon candles filled every corner, but there was nothing warm about that table. My mother, Patricia, stood up to give a toast. She raised her glass and started going on about Candace's newest real estate deal, some luxury condo development her husband's company was building. Dad, Ron, nodded along and added, "That's what happens when you apply yourself." Everyone clinked glasses. Everyone smiled. I sat there, quiet as always, but this time I had something. When the toast settled down, I cleared my throat. "I actually have some news of my own I'd like to share," I said. I reached under my chair for the envelope, but my mother's eyes locked onto me before I even finished my sentence. "Anna, please, don't embarrass us again." She said it in front of everyone. Then she reminded the whole table about 2 years ago, when I tried to show photos from my student art exhibition. She said nobody cared then, and her tone made it clear she expected nobody to care now. Candace laughed from across the table. Brooke smirked into her wine glass. My Uncle Dale tried. He said, "Let the girl alone." "Pat." But my mother waved him off like he was a fly. Then she doubled down. "Every year you come here with some little arts and crafts thing, and we all have to pretend it matters. Just eat your food." Candace leaned forward. "Mom's right. You're a 34-year-old woman making finger paintings with other people's kids. That's not news, Anna. That's sad." The table went quiet. A few of my cousins looked down at their plates. Nobody said a word. I stood up. My hands were trembling. But I picked up the envelope. Patricia's voice turned to ice. "Anna, I swear to God, if you make a scene..." I opened the envelope and pulled out 3 things: a letter, a printed check stub, and a photograph. The letter was from the Smithsonian American Art Museum. I had been selected as one of 5 emerging artists in the country for a prestigious national exhibition. Attached to it was a grant for $120,000. I set the check stub on the table. Silence. But the photograph showed my large-scale painting already hanging in a pre-exhibition preview in Washington, D.C. I looked at my mother and said, voice steady, "I wasn't going to embarrass you, Mom. I was going to make you proud. But I guess that was never really an option, was it?" You would think that moment would have changed something. You would think a mother, hearing her daughter had been recognized by one of the most respected museums in the country, would feel something close to pride. But you don't know Patricia Weaver. She recovered fast. She straightened in her chair, took a sip of water, and said, "Well, that's nice. But let's not act like this is something stable. It's a one-time thing." She moved on. Just like that. Candace was even worse. She pivoted immediately, claiming she had always supported Anna's little hobby. Then, she leaned across the table and told me I should invest that grant money in something real. "I can help you with property," she said, like she was doing me a favor, like the biggest night of my artistic life was just a piggy bank for her world. I sat back down and I realized something heavy and cold. The wind didn't change anything. They were already trying to absorb it, control it, minimize it. A few days after Thanksgiving, I noticed something. The family group chat was quiet. Too quiet. I checked. I'd been removed. Brooke told me later, almost casually, that mom said I humiliated the family by showing off. That was the phrase, showing off. I found out through my cousin Tara that Patricia had been calling relatives all week, telling them the grant isn't real money, and that I probably exaggerated the whole thing. Meanwhile, Candace posted a photo on social media of herself standing in some random art gallery, captioned something about supporting local artists. She tagged 3 strangers. She never mentioned me, not once. Then came the worst part. About 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, I got a phone call from the coordinator at the Smithsonian. Her voice was polite but careful. She said they needed to verify some concerns. Someone had contacted them, claiming to be a family member, and had questioned whether the work I submitted was authentically mine. They suggested I'd had help. I couldn't breathe. The room tilted. The sound of the clock on my kitchen wall was the only thing louder than my own heartbeat. And I knew it was Candace. I felt it in my bones. I called her. She denied it, her voice cold and flat. "Why would I waste my time on your little art project?" But her tone told me everything her words wouldn't. I didn't argue. I hung up and I got to work. I gathered every piece of documentation I had, processed photos of every stage of the painting, time-stamped videos of me working in my studio, brushes in hand, paint on my face, receipts for supplies, everything. And I submitted it all to the Smithsonian. The complaint was dismissed within a week. But the damage to my heart was done. That night, I sat alone in my small apartment, staring at my painting supplies, brushes standing in jars, tubes of cadmium yellow and burnt sienna scattered across the table. I whispered it to myself, because I needed to hear it out loud. They don't want me to fail. They want me to disappear. But what my family didn't know was that the Smithsonian exhibition wasn't the beginning. It was the middle. For 3 years, I had been selling original paintings and limited edition prints online under a pseudonym, Lena Ray. That was the name I created for myself when I realized my real name would never be respected in my own home. Lena Ray had a growing collector base. My work had been featured in 2 independent art magazines and an online culture blog with over 500,000 readers. I had quietly earned over $210,000 in sales. That money sat in a separate account nobody in my family knew existed. I never told a soul, because I knew exactly what would happen if I did. They'd belittle it. They'd try to control it. Or they'd find a way to claim credit, the way they always did. I built something real in the silence they forced on me. Every time they told me to be quiet, I painted louder. The Smithsonian selection didn't happen by accident either. A curator had discovered Lena Ray's work online, traced it back to my real identity, and invited me personally. They came to me. They thought the envelope was my big moment. They had no idea it was just the door opening. There was one person in my life who saw me before any of this happened. Her name was Diana Calloway. She was my college professor years ago. And now she's a respected gallery curator in Columbus, Ohio. Diana was the first person who ever told me my work had real commercial and emotional power. Not as a compliment to make me feel good, but as a fact. She said it the way someone tells you water is wet. It just was. For years, she'd been quietly advising me. She helped me price my work. She helped me navigate the art world, build the Lena Ray brand, and understand my own value when nobody else around me would. And after the sabotage attempt, I called her. I was in tears. I could barely get the words out. Diana was calm and firm. This is what happens when small people stand next to someone growing. You don't shrink, Anna. You document everything, and you keep painting. Then she offered me something bigger. She was organizing a major showcase at her Columbus gallery in January, and she wanted me to be the headlining artist. Not as Lena Ray, as Anna Weaver. Full identity reveal. It's time, Anna. But let them see who you really are. All of it. Meanwhile, the family noise kept going. Patricia told relatives not to attend if Anna invites you to anything. Candace told a cousin I was having some kind of breakdown and making up stories about art fame. Brooke sent me a passive-aggressive text that read, "Mom's really hurt. You should apologize for Thanksgiving. You know how she is." I didn't respond. I was too busy preparing 26 paintings for the biggest night of my life. They were still talking about me at their dinner tables. I was hanging my work on gallery walls. Opening night, January, the Diana Calloway Gallery in Columbus, Ohio. The air smelled like fresh paint, polished wood, and white wine. Over 200 people filled the space. Collectors, journalists, art critics, local press. I walked in wearing a simple black dress and looked around at what I had built. My paintings filled every wall. A banner stretched across the entrance that read, "Unsilenced, the art of Anna Weaver, the woman behind Lena Ray." The reveal went public that night. Art blogs and local news picked up the story within the hour. Lena Ray's true identity was finally known, and collectors were thrilled. 2 of my paintings sold within the first 60 minutes for $15,000 each. I was standing near one of my larger pieces when I felt the energy in the room shift. I turned around. Patricia, Candace, and Brooke had walked in. They must have seen the event on social media. The 3 of them stood near the entrance, looking around at the scale of it all, and I watched their faces try to rearrange themselves. My mother approached me near a painting called Quiet Daughters. It showed a woman sitting at a dinner table, surrounded by people who were all turned away from her. Patricia stared at it for a long time. Then her voice came out, tight and controlled. "You could have told us about all this. We're your family." I looked at her. "I tried every year. You told me to sit down. You told me not to embarrass you." Candace stepped in, already adjusting her tone like she was at a business meeting. "Anna, this is incredible. I always knew you had—" I cut her off. "Don't. You called the Smithsonian and tried to take this from me. I have the records. The coordinator told me everything." The color drained from Candace's face. Brooke stepped back toward the wall. A journalist standing a few feet away was watching. Candace noticed and went completely silent. Patricia tried one last move. "This is a family matter. Let's not do this here." I didn't flinch. "You made it public every Thanksgiving, Mom. Every dinner, every group chat I was removed from. You made it public when you told our whole family my work didn't matter. I'm just finally in a room where people disagree with you." Diana stepped beside me and raised her glass to the crowd. Tonight is about an artist who built something extraordinary, not because of her circumstances, but despite them. To Anna." The room erupted in an applause. Patricia stood frozen in place. Candace pulled out her phone, pretending to look unbothered. Brooke stood quietly in the corner, tears running down her face. I looked at my mother one last time. Then I turned back to my art. I didn't chase, I didn't beg, I just let the walls speak. The showcase sold out. 17 of 26 paintings were purchased that night. Total sales exceeded $95,000. 2 national art publications ran full features on the Lena Ray reveal, and I received 3 more exhibition invitations in the weeks that followed. I kept teaching. I didn't quit my job. I love my students, and that classroom is where I first found my voice. But I teach differently now, with the confidence of someone the world has seen and validated. My mother never apologized directly, but she stopped making comments about my career. Candace avoids me entirely now. And Brooke, weeks later, sent me a short text. "I'm sorry, I should have said something sooner." I didn't respond right away, but I didn't delete it either. I moved into a small studio apartment with a proper painting space, bought with my own money, on my own terms. They wanted me to be quiet, so I let my work make all the noise. And the thing about silence? When you finally break it, everybody hears you. If your family ever made you feel like your passion was something to be ashamed of, I want you to know, it's not. Your talent is not small just because they refuse to see it. Share your story in the comments. What's the thing you built that nobody believed in? I'm reading every single one. Click Hype to help this story reach others who need it. If this story hit close to home, you're exactly who this channel is for. We post stories every week about real people who refuse to stay small. Subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on notifications so you never miss one. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. I'll see you in the next one.